And welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Steltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. For the last several years, I've been featuring each of these remarkable women. They're called Filles du Roi or Filles Mariées, depending on the years that they came. And I've been telling their stories because I think it's important to say their names. Often they get lost in history. And my aim with this project is to really uplift them and really shine a spotlight on them rather than their husband, and really try to understand what these women brought to us. And with that being said, before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. Subscribe, like, and notify. And subscribe is really important in terms of all the YouTube, and like is another very important in terms of the algorithm. So if you could do that, that'd be awesome if you haven't already. And there's three other ways to help the channel itself grow. We have now the YouTube memberships that are phenomenal, and each one of them has a perk. I've worked with YouTube to be able to create these membership levels, if you will, and I thank those of you who are already participating. And they start at 99 cents for the casual viewer, and with a few little perks, and then they go all the way to $24.99. All of them are monthly, and all of them can be canceled at any time. So depending on where you're at in your genealogy, you may want to have a look at that and see if that could be of help to you. And there's also on my PayPal, on my website, a PayPal button that you can use. And you can also do a super thanks for a video that you might particularly like. And that is something that is available to anybody that wants to participate. So with that being said, let's get started with our Filles du Roi of this episode. Today we're going to be looking at episode 316, Marguerite Ferron. She comes to us from a viewer request, but I also had her in my files as my best friend's great-grandmother, and also one of my colleagues here in Tucson. This is also her great-grandma. So let's have a look at Marguerite's life. Marguerite was born in 1641 in Saint-Vaast, France. Her parents were Jean-François Ferron and Antoinette Neuville. Now, Saint-Vaast is spelled two ways. I've seen it with a W or a V, but it is pronounced with the V sound. Now, the Saint-Vaast is part of the Hauts-de-France region that you can see on the upper left of your screen, and then the département, or county, if you will, of Nord. So she is part of, you can see how far up, I mean, this is almost into the next country. And it was at one time known as French Flanders. And in the 17th century, the area was deeply Catholic with a strong Flemish cultural background. The village took its name from Saint Vaast, who was a 6th century bishop. And at that time, Saint Vaast fell under the Diocese of Cambrai and was influenced by the political tensions between France and Spain, and the surrounding region was part of the Spanish Netherlands until it was annexed by France in 1678. So imagine, this is the area that she grew up with that had all those influences of Spain and the Netherlands and France. So it was only annexed and became part of France after she had left. So this is really interesting. So very, very historical place that she comes from. Now, she would come to New France, carrying with her a dowry of about 300 pounds. Her father had passed away, and she would arrive in New France on July 30th, 1671, aboard Le Prince Maurice. The groom that she would select, and who selected her, was Guilluame Bertrand, and he was born in 1642 in a commune called Sainte-Marie-de-Ré in France. His parents were Pierre Bertrand and Jeanne Boutin. Sainte-Marie-de-Ré is one of the oldest villages on the island of Ré, off the Atlantic coast of France. It was founded in the early Middle Ages, and it grew around that church dedicated to Saint Mary, and was well known for its vineyards and salt marshes. In the 12th century, nearby monks helped develop agriculture and trade, and the village's church, this Sainte Marie, served as a refuge during centuries of conflict, including, but not limited to, the 100 Years' War and the French Wars of Religion. And of course, it was badly damaged during the Protestant revolts of the 1500s. In 1627, the island was invaded by the English under the Duke of Buckingham, but they were defeated, and Saint Marie slowly recovered. A truly amazing, amazing place to grow up. So you can imagine Guillaume is from this island off the coast of France, essentially, and she's almost out of France. She's almost in another country, and so they couldn't have come from two more different places, but here they connect. Guillaume would arrive in 1665, and he would sign a 3-year contract. He can be found in the 1666 census and 1667 census. He was working for Denis Rouet, and you can clearly see that he was a domestic engagé. So basically, they would work out their 3-year contract, hopefully gain a little money, and decide at that point if they want to stay. And basically, they wanted to create a life for themselves. So the whole idea is to build and create almost a financial portfolio. So when the time comes to marry, they have enough to offer a new bride. Now, they were married October 28, 1671, and Marguerite would receive the king's dowry of £50. So she brought into the marriage £350. So this was a couple definitely who had some kind of resources. Let's see where they settle. They would settle at Neuville, which by the way means new town. And this particular seigneurie is one of the oldest certainly in New France, but also in Canada. In 1653, the area was granted as a seigneurie to Jean Bourdon de Saint-Jean for his son, Jean-François Bourdon de Dombourg. And the reason why I make that, I want to make sure that you know that if you come across documents that say Dombourg, it is Neuville. By 1680, they sold it to Nicolas Dupont de Neuville, and that's where it became. So for like 30 years, it was known as Dombourg. So you may still see it in some of the earliest documents. So this was a place very renowned for the early settlers would come here, the craftsmen, a lot of people from Neuville, a lot of filles du roi. The parish of Saint-François de Sales was formed in 1679, and it is also known as Pointe-aux-Trembles because the church was built upon an area that had once covered with aspen and birch, which is the word for tremble. So it is the translation of tremble is birch. So the settlement grew throughout the 16, 17, 1800s. By the time the British came along, they continued doing their thing. And this is really a small city, really steeped in history, and really has not evolved, thankfully, into anything commercial or anything like that. It really is picturesque. It really pays homage to the past. And when I was there in 2023, I could not believe how beautiful it was and how serene. And you really need to take a step into Neuville to understand the kind of, and the fact that you're there and looking at the same things that your ancestors would have looked at is just an amazing. So if you have ancestors at Neuville, I encourage you to visit. They would go on to have 8 children. Jean-François would marry Anne Richard, and they would have 11 children, 10 of whom made it to adulthood. Anne's mother was Marguerite Eve, who we profiled in episode 49, and I've provided the link for it. Marie-Madeleine would sadly pass away at the age of 6. Marie-Marguerite married Nicolas Petit and had 8 children, 5 of whom made it to adulthood. Marie-Angélique married François Richard and had 12 children, 7 of whom made it to adulthood. François was the brother of Anne Richard, who married Marie-Angélique's brother, Jean-François. So there you have it, the brothers and the sisters. And then we have Marie, who would pass away. We would have François, who would pass away sometime after 1713. We would have Thérèse, who married Charles Rémonot, and have 1 child who made it to adulthood before her own early death at 30. And then we have Guillaume, who married Marie-Angélique Dubuc, and would have 13 children, 10 of whom made it to adulthood. Marguerite would pass away in 1706 at the age of 64. She and Guillaume had been married 35 years, and she would leave us with 75 descendants. Guillaume would die a little over 4 years later. Both are buried at Saint François de Sales Memorial. I love these stories where it's really just a love story. She gets off the boat, she marries the man, they have a nice life together, a good life together, and they create a descendancy. And so it's sometimes, yes, it's very exciting, the ones that, have all kinds of tragedy. But this one was really nice, very peaceful, and I think that she was very special, and they were able to be pioneers at a beautiful place called Neuville. So thank you to Marguerite for coming to North America and being able to give of yourself and be strong and vibrant and be a true pioneer and a true founding mother. So thank you, Marguerite Ferron, for all your gifts. We bless your memory. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. You are all the wind beneath my wings. So thank you so very, very much. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate you so much. And until I see you on the next episode of Les Filles du Roi, until then, au revoir.